Test, test. There we go. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 6:02. I am Mayor Pro Tem Eric Lutz, and today I am chairing the council meeting here in the city of Pico Rivera. Mayor Dr. Monica Sanchez is out on city business, and we'll go ahead and get started with a roll call. Our city clerk, Anna Jerome.
Councilmember Elias.
Here.
Councilmember Camacho.
Here.
Councilmember Lara.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lutz.
Here. All righty, then the next item, we want to do our invocation, and we have a special guest, Pastor Drew from Hope Community Church. If we can please stand, bow our heads.
Father, we just thank you for your goodness and your grace and your mercy, Father. We pray for wisdom over the council. And Father, we thank you for your grace. Father, we thank you for protection for the sheriffs and the fire. And we just have a heart of gratitude tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Drew, and for our flag salute, we'll have our council member Camacho.
Please face our flag. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone can please take their seats. Mr. City Manager, do we have any changes to our agenda for June 14, 2022?
No changes to the agenda. There is an addition for special presentations. We have the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay, so moving on now to special presentations. There are two. The first one we're going to start off is the Certificate of Recognition for the Pride Program. Captain?
Thank you very much. It's a privilege for me to once again recognize Deputy Jesus Perez. He's our community relations deputy, and one of the many hats that he wears is in charge of our Pride program, which is one of our youth empowerment programs. It teaches responsibility, ethics, and life choices. And we were proud to graduate another 12 students, and we are able to actually have one that graduated a couple of years ago, and he continues to come back and is successful and excelling in his life. And so once again, I thank the City Council for recognizing the amazing work that Deputy Perez does in bringing forward our community programs, specifically our youth program. So thank you so much, Deputy Jesus Perez.
Great. And we have our certificates. If we want to go ahead and present the certificates.
Captain, we have a video. I don't know if you want to play it now or after.
You want to play it now?
Sure.
Okay.
Big round of applause for the LA County Sheriff's Department Pride Program. And in my hand, we have here a certificate of recognition for the Pico Rivera Sheriff's Station. I'll go ahead and read it to you. And certificate of recognition for the Pride Program to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Pico Rivera Station, presented in recognition for the intervention of our youth to ensure better decisions are made in order to avoid a difficult future. So, Captain and Deputy Perez, if you can come on up, and we'll do a photo opportunity for your great work in this Pride program.
You guys can take like 2 steps this way. One, two. And one with just the deputy.
And our captain.
Sorry about that. My apologies. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then one for Instagram. Thank you so much.
And before you go, here are the certificates for the graduates. Thank you, Deputy Perez. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I just hear from you? You attended the graduation. What did you think?
Yes, I attended the graduation with Councilmember Camacho, and I have to say I was blown away by these students because they really did appreciate the education that they acquired in those few weeks. In fact, they stepped up to the microphone, a good percentage of them. I think about half of the students, and they said, I was in trouble. I'm summarizing. They'd say, I was in trouble. This really helped me. It helped me get out of my shell. And other students said, we want other friends of ours to get into the program. When you have that type of story come directly from a teenager, where they step up, they get in front of a big crowd, and they do public speaking, and they're not getting paid, they're not forced, they did it out of the kindness of their own heart and in appreciation for the Sheriff's Department's Pride program, that goes a long way. And I remember our Councilmember Camacho and I, we were blown away by that.
Absolutely, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you. I have to definitely comment on the Pride program because these are for kids, at-risk kids who are on the verge of making some bad choices in their life, and the programming that goes within the amount of time is, where they travel, they have group meetings, and that programming has only got better, and I saw it at that last graduation. And amongst the many accomplishments, again, kudos to Deputy Perez, the captain, the entire team, because you had a whole team, Deputy Perez, that you work with. Kudos to everyone, but I know you lead it and great programming that's done. But I'll reiterate what Mayor Pro Tem mentioned. The highlight was to hear these kids who come in with this different perspective of life, if you will, and then come out and they themselves spoke and highlighted their the value of this program, the value of this unity, and the new camaraderie that they got with these kids, and even with the coaches and mentors. So it was great. So again, congratulations, and this is definitely something worthwhile congratulating, celebrating as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've been to the graduations previous to that. In fact, again, I'm a longtime supporter because what I do is I get your students to become my students, okay? And it makes it a whole lot easier. Believe me, it makes it a whole lot easier. I'm just really appreciative that that the council and the staff have committed $15,000, to the Pride program, and I'm sure that you can use it because again, your funding comes just by donations, doesn't it? Contributions.
Fundraising, yes.
So thank you very much.
I think it's community policing at its finest, to be honest with
Agreed.
you. It's about making relationships, and it's about making bonds, and it's about creating role models for our youth and those who are troubled, or those who are going through a difficult time in their life where they could make decisions that could really alter their life in a negative way. And I'm just very appreciative that, that we have this program. But not only is it just the character of the program, but it's the character of the individuals. Officer Perez, and the other deputies involved, you people just care. You care about the community. You care about the youth. And I think it's just a great fit. So thank you very much once again for everything that you do.
And the Sheriff's Department thanks the city and the city council, city staff for supporting us and giving us the opportunity to take part in being engaged with the community like we do. It's a team effort, and we appreciate it very much.
Great job to our Pico Rivera Sheriff's Department, our deputies, and our captain. Moving on to the second presentation presented by the Army Corps of Engineers.
You guys hear me okay? Great, thanks. Hey, my name is Aaron Smith, and I do work for the Army Corps of Engineers. And I'm here to talk to you guys about a piece of infrastructure, which hopefully you're pretty intimately familiar with because you live right in its shadow, the Whittier Narrows Dam. I am talking to you from a national center for dam safety that the Corps of Engineers has. I am not talking to you as the resident expert on the dam.
A little closer, Aaron.
How's that?
There we
Thanks.
go.
I'm not talking to you as the resident expert on the dam. They were so worried about that. I brought 4 people with me who can be that just in case I flub. But I did want to come and talk to you and give this presentation so that you understood what an important project this is for the Corps of Engineers as a whole. And I really wanted to thank you guys for this opportunity to update you on the project because at a national level, as we're infusing it here in regions, communication is a big part of what we need to be doing when we talk about our infrastructure and the importance it plays in communities like Pico Rivera. So this is a great opportunity for us. I've latchkeyed myself to the team and look forward to supporting them. And I will tell you that communication is going to play a big role in us go forward as we fix this dam. And we will fix this dam. We will get her done. And we will get out of your hair, and you will get back to life as normal. But in the meantime, what I want to tell you is that we're committed to partnering with you guys and making sure that we keep you up to speed and that you understand why we're taking this investment. And that's hopefully what we're going to start talking to you about here today. So hopefully you guys have gotten a placemat in front of you guys too. One side is just probably general information you guys know about the dam. On the other side is a little bit more specific on the project, and I'll be talking to this one here a little bit as we go through the slide presentation. So let's go ahead and advance slides. I don't know if I can do that with this clicker. Yeah, great. So there's 4 key things that I want to talk to you guys here today. I obviously want to give you an update on the project status. I mentioned that it is absolutely a priority for the Corps of Engineers. And that's why you're seeing folks across our enterprise getting engaged in this project because we want to make sure that we give you guys the top-notch engineering solution that you deserve. I'm going to remind you a little bit about the purpose of the project, what the dam does, what it can't do, and why we're making this investment. The bottom line for you guys is that you're probably going to see about 4 years of major construction, starting in 2025, probably going through 2029. I'm going to give you an update on the existing contract that we have going right now. We're relocating several utilities that penetrate the dam right now. I know that's impacted some of your activities at the local golf course. We've got about 1 year of that work left. Our hope is that we will wrap up work near your driving range about this time Christmas, which could give you an opportunity if you and your vendor are interested in reopening that driving range for a couple years before we have to get back in there and start doing our major work. And lastly, I really did want to focus on our emphasis on public outreach and engagement. I've worked on many dams across the nation. We've got 700 of them. Fortunately, all of them don't require an investment like the one we're making here on this project, but many of them do, and I have been extremely impressed with the efforts that your community has taken to communicate on our behalf the importance of this dam, the roles it plays in your citizens' lives, and the importance of this upgrade to infrastructure. And so in communicating with Javier and Pamela and Jesse, they've really driven home the efforts you guys have already undertaken. And I just want to let you know that we're going to be completely engaged and supportive of those efforts and be your partner going forward, 100%. So that's kind of the bottom line up front. Let me move us through the presentation here a little bit. And if any of you have questions, please feel free to interrupt me at any point in time. So I'm going to kind of back up and maybe just talk Dams 101 with you guys here a little bit. We're seeing an aerial view of Whittier Narrows here. Obviously, we've got two streams that come into the dam, the Rio Hondo and then the San Gabriel, and your community, of course, sits in between those two dams. We break the 3-mile-long dam into 3 reaches, west, central, and east embankment. And then we've got 2 features that are meant to discharge water when required to. As you guys obviously know, the dam is a dry dam, which means that most days it does not impound water whatsoever. In fact, there's hardly a drop of rain to be found in the San Gabriel Rio Hondo on most days. But it is here for those days when rainfall does come, and that rainfall could cause the Rio Hondo, the San Gabriel, or the streams downstream of it to go out of bank. And the dam is here to impound those waters, slowly release them to hopefully keep those streams in bank for as long as possible, and then release those waters again. We do that principally through the outlet works that we have on the Rio Hondo. So when we routinely store water and have to release it, and it's safe to do so downstream, all that water is diverted to the Rio Hondo side of the river and released. However, we do have 9 gates that sit on the San Gabriel. And those gates are really only meant for very extreme events. So Whittier Narrows, like all dams, and there's 92,000 dams across the United States of America, is not built to store infinite amount of stormwaters. And so there are storms, extreme and unlikely, but still probable, that could occur that would overwhelm the dam's ability to store those waters safely. And when that happens, like all dams, it has a spillway to be able to release those excess stormwaters to make sure the dam survives that event and is there for the future. However, when we open up those 9 gates on the San Gabriel, depending on the height of those dams, it is very likely that you're going to see some significant out-of-bank flooding downstream and in your community specifically. And that's the dam operating as intended. And that is a key message that we want to make sure that everybody who lives downstream knows. These dams have done great things for you. They've allowed your communities to develop in extremely flood-resilient ways. They've cut many floods that would have occurred otherwise without it, but they cannot eliminate your risk of flooding. And so when those extreme storm events work, if the dam is in perfect shape, and we have to open up those spillway gates, your community, and frankly, all the way down to the Pacific Ocean, is probably going to see some significant flooding. Now, we work with emergency management in LA County, and we actually have a meeting tomorrow with your emergency planners, responders, and preparedness infrastructure managers to sit down and go through the inundation tools we have, share the information we have, and help you guys prepare on the off chance that we ever end up in one of those events. So anyways, I just wanted to remind you what the dam is here for, how it works, and that it does reduce your flood risk significantly, but it does not eliminate it. And that's an important message for you guys to know as well. Any questions on that slide before I move on? Yes, sir.
You, in the environmental impact statement, it talks about during the construction and so on, that there may be a migration of homeless into our area because of the construction and so on. Do you have any idea as to the timetable that will occur, or if it will occur?
Well, I can't speak to when a migration may or may not occur. What I can tell you is that right now we plan for major construction to start in 2025 and last about 4 years. So if that was a possibility and it was associated with our construction work, that might be the time frame that it occurred. I will show you a slide later that shows you where our construction work limits are. Most of those are very close proximity to the dam. We are dealing with some homeless encampments in the basin removed from the dam right now. And we do regularly sweep and try to clean up those encampments and keep them out of the basement.
My second question was, if you could please repeat the situation with the golf course again?
Yes. So as you guys know, right now, we have an active contractor working on either side of the San Gabriel, which is closed, I think, 2 holes on your golf course, as well as functionally close the driving range. That contractor will probably be on site at least for another year. However, he's going to be done with the work that is located in the area that's impacting your driving range, hopefully by the end of this calendar year. Given that we don't project starting major construction until 2025, that would give you guys an opportunity to reopen that driving range if you were interested for that period of time.
And that's a driving range, huh? Not the,
Not the 2 holes, probably not. Yeah. And of course, that's subject on construction continuing to go well. I mean, there's always uncertainty in those schedules.
thank you.
Any other questions? All right. So let me talk about the issues we're addressing with the project that's going to occur between 25 and 29. The first one is an issue we have with the, first of all, let me assure you that the dam itself is extremely strong and competent. It's well built, stands water like it's intended to. Unfortunately, we've learned that its foundation, which is largely made up of sand, can cause some issues undermining the dam. So when the dam is holding an extremely high head of water, that water is trying to find its way downstream any way it can. Because our dam is so strong and competent, it doesn't work its way through the dam. So the next path of least resistance is working its way underneath the soil foundation underneath the dam and exiting downstream. That condition itself is fairly benign. However, unfortunately, the sands that are located beneath this dam, we have a concern that when that water works its way and migrates its underneath the dam, that it could begin to erode that sand underneath the dam. And so that would be like eroding the earthen soil beneath your house. Sooner or later, if a big enough eroded hole or pipe occurs, your house will collapse. Our concern is that something similar like that could happen to our dam. So we're going to be addressing that during construction. How are we going to be addressing that? We're going to be putting some fairly small earthen features just downstream of the dam. So Pica Rivera side of the dam, low berms that are designed with engineered fill that let that water exit underneath the dam innocuously, pipe it back to the river, and keeps those foundation sands in place. So you will see some construction between the toe of the dam and some of your residential homes in between that point in time, installing some of those low earthen berms. Any questions about that? All right, really the largest piece of scope that we're working on the project is that what we found with some modern forecasting tools and the latest hydrologic sciences is that there are storms that even when we have all the gates opened on the Rio Hondo and we have all the gates opened on the San Gabriel and we're sending as much water as we can downstream, there are storms that could occur in the headwaters in the mountains that could drop so much rainfall that even with both those outlet works discharging as much water as possible, there'd be more inflow to the dam than we could send outflow, and therefore the dam would overtop. And when I say overtop, I mean the earthen embankment that you guys all see at the toe of your community. Those portions of the dam are not designed to receive water flowing over them. And our concern is when water is flowing over those portions of the dam, it will destabilize the dam, erode the embankment, and then result in a large release of uncontrolled water downstream, which would be far more damaging than the flooding you're already experiencing from our outlet works being open. And so we're basically going to be addressing that by, on the downstream face of the dam, or the portion of the dam that faces your all's community, we're going to be installing some what are going to look like concrete steps. They're actually going to be made of something called soil cement. And these steps are engineered to allow that water's energy to dissipate and keep the dam in place. Ultimately, those concrete steps will be buried in earthen fill, and the dam will probably look very much like it does today. But that's a lot of concrete steps over a 3-mile-long dam, which is why it's basically going to take us 4 years to do this project. And those are the two big things that we're going to be doing to upgrade the project. So here we're looking at a drawing of the dam, about the same orientation of the aerial you saw. And what you're seeing in the brightly colored pinks and purples is where the permanent installation of features will be on the dam to address those two dam safety issues. Like I said, most of them will actually be on the dam itself proper or just downstream of them. However, you will also see that there is a dashed line, kind of a dark line, and that's where we anticipate our contractor having what we would call construction work limits. So those would be the areas that he would be allowed to stage equipment, put in batch plants, run haul trucks, all those sorts of things. And so those are the areas where you'll see our contractor working principally. I've highlighted the 3 areas that are probably most important to you, which unfortunately are going to have to be closed during that construction, which are Streamland Park, your golf course, and then portions in and around the sports arena, including the closure of Sports Arena Drive. And unfortunately, we just need that space to install those features. And so just want to remind you of those closures. So how are we going to implement the project? I mentioned that we have an active construction contractor out there right now relocating some utilities that penetrate the dam through 2 galleries on either side of the San Gabriel spillway. That's what we call Contract 1, and it's getting those utilities out of the way so we can come in and do that work I just talked about. Right now, we project that about 95% of the work will be done through what we're calling Contract 3, and that will be most of the work along the entire embankment of the dam, or what you see in blue on this figure, potentially with a separate follow-on construction contract focused in and around Lincoln Avenue. The reason we have that as a separate contract right now is that there are a tremendous amount of utilities within the right-of-way of that road. And we are going to have to raise Lincoln and relocate it about 60 feet to the east. And we need to find a way to make sure that we maintain those utilities, beneficial use to the public. And so that could delay our ability to do the work on that portion of the dam. There is an opportunity where we may combine those 2 contracts into a single construction contract. Either way, construction is going to last about 4 years, whether we have 1 or 2 contracts. So the key message to you guys. Another important feature of the project, in addition to raising Lincoln Avenue about 5 to 6 feet, is we're going to be raising Rosemead Boulevard also 6 feet. And so there's no doubt going to be changes to traffic patterns associated with the raises of those 2 roads that your community will feel. But we do not anticipate, especially with Rosemead, that there should actually be any closure of that road during construction. In fact, we hope, except during transition periods, to maintain all 4 lanes of traffic on Rosemead. Lincoln, there could be some short duration periods where we will have to actually close that road. But you guys will probably see different traffic impacts and potentially a little bit more traffic associated with that. But again, it's to make sure that those roads continue to function as we modify our project at the same time. We also have an ongoing environmental contract going on. Our project is impacting some critical habitat for some aviary species. And so we have some folks working in the basin right now to remove some invasive plantings and put in some plantings that will support those birds nesting in the future. And so you probably see some folks out in the basin as well, too. Any questions on our?
Aaron,
Yes.
question. Raising of Rosemead Boulevard would be projected between what years and what years?
That will happen during 25 and 29 as well. Yep.
The environmental impact report estimates there's 65,000 cars a day on Rosemead Boulevard.
Yeah, it's a heavily trafficked thoroughfare, which is why we want to make sure we try to maintain it open and, make sure it's whole when we're done. Yep. It's an important thoroughfare for sure.
You had mentioned that they'd be raising, the Army Corps would be raising it about 6 feet?
Correct, sir.
Okay. And From what point to what point? What northern point to what southern point of Rosemead Boulevard would that be estimated?
I'm going to phone a friend.
Okay.
It's going to begin just north of Gallatin and terminate just by the bridge.
Okay, so for the rest of the folks that didn't hear, the anticipated raising of Rosemead Boulevard 6 feet in elevation would start just north of Gallatin Road, intersecting with Rosemead, and terminate at the railroad bridge.
No, there's a bridge immediately upstream of the dam where some water features cross over there. So
So the first bridge,
it's south of Durfee.
South of Durfee. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug. Any other questions? So what you're seeing here is that timeline laid out for you guys. Again, I expect the two major construction contracts, if they still stay separate, again, to occur between 25 and 29, with total project completion being 31. But again, I think the majority of what you will experience will occur between 25 and 29. So we talked, I just wanted to remind you guys again that during that time period, you probably will see some traffic changes associated with those two roads. Certainly installing this amount of features is going to require a lot of construction equipment. It'll be hard not to notice that. And then you are going to see the closure of Streamland Park and Bicentennial Park and the golf course, and as well as Sports Arena Drive. Couple things I do want to update you with. We talked about Rosemead and Lincoln. We'd always planned to raise Lincoln, but its relocation 60 feet to the east is a design refinement. Originally, Rosemead, we had hoped to protect from those overtopping flows. That turned out to be a bit of a challenge and still maintain a functional road, so that's why we're raising it. Either way, there would have been similar traffic impacts. Two changes that you did not see in the original EIS, which we will be updating on a supplementary NEPA document, is we were going to add a staging area there at the corner of Durfee and Rosemead. Colloquially, we know it as the strawberry fields, but it's that area number 4 you see on the screen. And then there is a concrete swale just west of the Rio Hondo. We're probably going to have to purchase that concrete swale and modify it to help us treat those foundation conditions. That concrete swale is just that. It does not incorporate anybody's shed or fencing or houses, so hopefully a negligible impact on the community associated with that.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Aaron, you mentioned the strawberry field. The location of the strawberry field is where again?
It is that area that's number 4 highlighted on the screen, and it's basically a large fallow field located at the corner of Durfee and Rosemead there.
Okay.
I assume it used to be a strawberry field. It is not anymore. It sort of backs up against the Leg Lake area. And it's just an ideal location for our contractor to be able to stage, put offices, parking. He's got good access to multiple roads that allows him to get to his construction site. It's also an area that is outside of where we would impound water should a storm occur, so it gives him a high and dry place to store equipment. All right, so just a quick update on Contract 1. Again, I think I've kind of hit the key messages here. We expect that contract to be done about July 2023. But again, we're hoping by New Year's that he will no longer need the area where your driving range kind of abuts against the dam. The netting that terminates there at the end of your driving range has been rolled up, so it can easily be dropped back. And then, I think there were some irrigation features that have just been capped that should be able to easily be restored if you guys have an interest in reopening that driving range until our large construction contractor comes back on site. And that's really it. And I appreciate your time. And again, I really, really wanted to applaud Pico Rivera for all the efforts you guys have taken to help communicate the project. Like I said, we are meeting with your emergency planning and preparedness folks tomorrow, along with LA County, to talk a little bit more about some of the inundation risks that we know about the project, to help them have your community prepare for a bad case event. And we've also committed to setting up, starting in July, a booth at your farmers market and make sure that we're making ourselves available to your population to answer any questions that we might have. But subject to your all's questions, I really appreciate your time today. It's been an honor to speak with you guys.
Thank you, Aaron. We do have a couple questions. Councilmember Elias?
You know, I spoke to the rescue team that we have here located in Pico Rivera, and they were explaining to me that if there was an occasion where the dam, would break there, that it would create flooding from here all the way to Long Beach. Is he correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, he is. But a key message to you is that while we are concerned that our project does not meet all the standards we want it to make sure that it can survive all the storm events that it may have to pass, your risk of inundation is actually much higher from us just having to release storm waters to reduce the chance of the dam ever being overtopped. And frankly, those can feel just as impactful as a breach. Of course, we don't want our project to break because you're then talking about a uncontrolled wave of water coming downstream with little to no warning. Whereas when we have to open our gates, usually we know that storm's coming. We know that those gate operations are going to have, and it gives us more time to coordinate with emergency planners downstream to get people out of the way of the harm. But in either case, you could see inundation from here all the way to Seal and Long Beaches.
Now, that's a plus side. The other one I'm going to ask you is from the economic development situation here. How many jobs do you think it's going to create in the local area?
Yeah, I don't have those numbers. I apologize. I would not be able to forecast that for you right now.
With your experience from other dams, would you be able to?
It really depends on the nature of the work and the contractor it's awarded to. Typically, it does lead to some local economic stimulus for sure. You certainly can have local workers hired depending on their skill or the type of labor that's required. And then, of course, local businesses tend to benefit from having more people eating lunches and places to stay and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
I couldn't give you an exact number.
Thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Camacho?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you for the presentation and for the update as to the change in timeline. Although I recognize it's necessary, it's unfortunate for us because it just prolongs the headache that we are here enduring. But I also appreciate that you bring, once again, the clarity of the importance of this project and the safety importance of this project. And although this community, as you stated, has grown because of the dam and what it was intended to do, and it has done, and our community has grown, we, as a community, unfortunately, are going to lose major green space, up to 60% of our green space in our community, which is a major impact. For those very reasons, we continue to work as a team here to try to mitigate those impacts above and beyond the project itself with the Army Corps, both in D.C. and San Francisco and local, of course, and we continue on those efforts. But it's unfortunate that we as a community that has grown with this will now reap the negative impact of the value of improving public safety in our community. With that, we've discussed this before, and my concerns is what's been going on through day one with the conversation with you is during construction, now that it's been prolonged, but during construction, the major impact to our community is going to be dust pollution, noise pollution, traffic, construction pollution. Can you tell us again how that will be mitigated? Will there be higher devices to control the dust that goes into the neighbors? Will there be, noise reduction devices out there? Can you go into that? And also traffic of the vehicles. I know at one point you all stated that there will be another entrance for these large vehicles, how, if any, traffic will be coming through the city streets into the project itself. So if you can address those three, noise, dust, and traffic pollution.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up Mr. George Sonny to answer your specific questions because he's far more familiar and will give you the specificity you're looking for in that. But before I do, first of all, I want to acknowledge the burden that a community that directly adjacent to one of our projects has to bear when we have to take one of these upgrades on, and appreciate and empathize the impacts that, you do suffer for the benefit of many. It's kind of a double-edged sword. Because the dam is here, you guys get the opportunity to do a lot of things when it doesn't rain. It provides a lot of great opportunities. And we do want to make sure it's here for you in the future, but I do acknowledge the burden that a community right adjacent to one of our pieces of infrastructure bears during that. With that, I'm going to ask George to come up and address your specific questions.
Sir, it's a pleasure to get an opportunity to talk about the project. To answer some of your questions, I think one of the big ones was, for example, for the first contract that's going on for the utility relocations, there were some initial considerations about using local streets, and obviously that would cause problems from a traffic standpoint. So to the extent practicable, we've been looking at using the top of the dam for entry down to where the golf course is. And so that's been something we've been using in order to reduce the level of traffic for this first contract. We also were aware during the development of this first contract about some concerns from the local community about dust pollution. And so we had worked with our contractor in order to wet down areas and to limit some of those. Mr. Javier Hernandez was very good about talking to us about some of those concerns, which we were then able to relay in an efficient manner to our contractor. And so I think that helped at least reduce some of those concerns. And so those are the main ones, that we've done at least to this point. We're also working on a supplemental environmental assessment, a NEPA document that will be laying out some of what we're looking to do to minimize to the extent practicable noise and some of the other concerns that you're bringing up. We're anticipating having that document available for public review closer to the end of the calendar year. And the reason that we are talking today is because of the fact that, given the fact that there's been some of these challenges and delays, it was very important for us to be able to provide you a timely update on the project and to at least let you know what's going on moving forward. But we anticipate coming back in about 6-7 months and hopefully be able to provide an update regarding that environmental assessment and give you a little bit more clarity on some of those specific questions.
And I brought it up before, and I bring it up today, and I will continue bringing it up because I think it's important that as we get to the construction itself, it's going to be very key for us because we also get support and recognize, again, what needs to be done, and we're all for it. But we also know that when construction begins, our residents, especially those that live in the north side, are going to have major impacts for 4 years. So I've seen projects, even one currently here in the city of Pico Rivera, which is a small project that, there's doing some soil mitigation and moving dust around, and the neighbors have just had a nightmare with this. And so, but in this particular case, the contractors are not going to be accountable to us, going to be accountable to you, report to you. So we want to make sure we're going to keep pushing on that because that is important for us. The results of this project is very important. During the construction is equally important to mitigate and minimize the impact to the residents of our community. It's going to have to be done at a whole different level because it's a major construction, major impact, and just I think that's very key when it comes to the construction aspect of it.
I appreciate and agree with your comment. I think the one other thing I would say is that over the last few months, I've had the pleasure of being able to have regular, more frequent communications with the city of Pico Rivera, and to be able to be more responsive when there are issues. Because as you know, with any type of construction, there will be changes, there will be issues as they go forward. And so that gives us that opportunity to be able to get a more real-time feedback. And so we do appreciate it. We do appreciate the fact that you have been an advocate for these types of things and the concerns that you brought up, because it's a very important one that we need to keep in mind.
It was stated about the homeless, the potential homeless impact to the community based on during construction. You know, we had an issue with the closure of the golf course because prematurely closing the entire area might even, you know, create this encampments sooner than later. We have the issue homelessness in our riverbeds, both in the Rio Hondo and San Gabriel. And we deal with that. That's just the nature of the area where we live. But speaking specifically about the design, and it was mentioned about the foundation erosion portion of it, I believe on the Rio Hondo side, there are some kind of like a spillways, I don't know, so to capture water on the sides. I'm not sure if it's for that purpose or for, you know, just spillover or whatnot, but there are these little side kind of areas where water would spill over to. What's
The spreading grounds, I think.
the spreading grounds? No, there's, right in Rio Hondo, right where the walls are, right next to the walls, we have kind of like, it looks like another spillway area that kind of captures an additional type of water. And I don't know, I mean, the design is meant for a purpose, but what I'm asking is, as we design these, as you're designing them, will it create hidden pockets like those that I'm mentioning where another area of encampment can occur that is just completely hidden like these are, that we've had issues in the past with, so I want to put that out there on your radar. I might be incorrect altogether, but just from what I know and I've seen there and how it creates these blind spots for anyone to detect, will the new designs meet the purpose but create these other unintended consequences for our community to deal with in the future after the project is complete? If you can keep that in mind.
Absolutely. That's a good thing for, I think, for our team to be cognizant of and to work towards.
And lastly, I'll just say, man, Rosemead Boulevard, it's the main northern entrance unless you do on the 605, which is highly impacted freeway, and Lincoln is that little small street that people take to cut through. I don't know what keeping 4 lanes, I hope you can do it, but that's going to be a major, major issue when we get there, and hopefully we can deal with it in a much better way. So that's all I have, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Laura?
Thank you. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for, or the team rather, for coming and presenting. I appreciate your presentation. It's very thoughtful. It's very thorough. I want to take the time to thank staff, city staff. Councilmember Camacho and I, we sit on an infrastructure committee, so this topic has been in front of us. I feel like every 2 weeks we chip away, something's new. This is my second year on city council, and I feel that this project has just been such a really large moving target in terms of dates, in terms of, by this time we were told that the golf course would be closed, that 3/4 of it would be closed. So it's been a moving target, and we understand there's been supply issues, it's just the nature of where things are. So I'd encourage you to come back in 6 months again to keep us regularly updated in terms of what's happening. This is the first time I heard that the strawberry fields were going to be used as a staging ground, because we had heard that was going to that contract, that strawberry farm contract, had terminated. There was going to be potentially a new park going there. So this is the first time we're hearing that this is a staging ground. My other colleagues have touched on a variety of issues that are important. They've touched on the environment. They've touched on economic impact. They touched on public health. Just some minor details from me. One issue is the sports arena. For us, that is a historical landmark. It's a historical landmark for the community of Pico Rivera, but for Mexican Americans in general. It's when I go there, I see cultural continuity being preserved among a broad spectrum of generations, from little kids to grandparents. Not only is that something that's locally very popular, but it's internationally known. People from various countries within Latin America come and the sports arena is something that is known. In fact, we will be having Alejandro Fernandez will be singing there, and that's the son of Vicente Fernandez, right? Now, Alejandro Fernandez, when I talked to the Lopez family, the contractor who runs the sports arena, he very specifically said he wanted to come to the Pico Rivera Sports Arena to hold a concert because his father had been there. And then he told the operators, I want you, the majority of the tickets, I want you to cap them at $50 because I want the community to come and to see me sing. Because typically he's in the sports arena. Typically, I mean, he's like the Staples Center or Crypto Arena. He's bigger venues. But he's coming to the Pico Rivera Sports Arena because it's traditional, it's heritage. And some of that might be lost on people who don't live here, on engineers who are coming. And I want to impress that on you because it's something very important to us. And you're taking away Sports Arena Drive, and I understand that. You're widening the berms. There's things that need to be replaced, but that impacts the viability of that venue for us. And for not only just us as a city, but as a cultural community, it impacts the viability of that. There are other things that we would like some latitude with when we're working with the Army Corps of Engineers, and simply a new sign for that place. We'd like a covering so that venues can be held pretty much throughout the year. These are things that are important to us when we're talking about the venue and keeping it in place. And I get it, we can't make a decision now, but these are things that are on our forefront when we're thinking not only of the cultural continuity, but also economic development, right? I'm sure you've been to the Pico Rivera Sports Arena. It's a place that needs a facelift, right? But it's difficult to do that when the Army Corps of Engineers is pushing back. Because it's probably not a venue that would be approved nowadays, right? If it was 2020, and if we came to the Army Corps of Engineers, hey, we want to put a sports arena here, they probably told us, hey, it's a flood zone, get lost, right? But it's something that was built there, and it's something that's there, and it's something that means something to us. So if you could please work with us as we try to improve that. And now we're looking at 2025. We just can't sit on our hands and say, well, we're going to wait another 5 years before we start attempting to make improvements to the sports arena. And lastly, Rosemead, when you're in the 6 feet change that road, can we get streetlights? Can we get streetlights on that section of Rosemead north of Gallatin that goes into and hits Durfee? I drive that on a regular basis at night, and it is dark. So when you're going through and you're improving that area, we need a bike lane and we need streetlights for that area. Thank you.
I appreciate the comment.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I want to tell the entire team of the Army Corps of Engineers, looks like we have a total of 5. Thank you for coming out
Maybe
to,
one last comment.
yes. We have a total of 5, and we do appreciate you educating us on a per-term basis. I would imagine 6 months from now, you're coming back to give us an update on what lane closures were going to occur on Rosemead Boulevard. Is that correct?
So we'll still be in our design phase. As mentioned before, we're going to be a couple of years out from our from completion of design and the start of the construction. We anticipate about a year from now to be approaching our final design for the work that's going on for the major contract work.
And we do appreciate, because this project here preserves our city and the rest of the cities south of us. It's a project that has to get done, and we do appreciate the time and energy you put into it. And for our city manager, we do have a communication campaign, an outreach, a public service announcement campaign that's going to be issued throughout the upcoming years, informing our public.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, it's ongoing, including an established website that we continue to update. And we'll update that timeline as well.
Great. And we have additional questions and comments from Councilmember Elias.
I just want to add, in terms of the city's preparation for this, And City Manager, correct me if I'm wrong in terms of the timelines here. Back in 2019, we began to take a serious look at the environmental impact statement. And again, it was a situation of where are the holes that are not going to be plugged by the Corps of Engineers. And that was called the mitigation fund. And when I first came into council, the mitigation fund was about 12 million. What I did was that we had an opportunity of going over the environmental impact study and working with, at that time, you were economic development.
Yes, sir.
And what we did was that we carefully took a look at everything, including, the Rosemead situation, noise, the elimination of the parks, the strawberry fields, and so on. And the figure went from 12 million to 100 million. To 100 million. So we were pretty detailed in addressing some of the major situations in it. And that's what our proposal was to the federal government, wasn't it?
Yes, it's about $125 million, and we're continuing that discussion with the federal government.
Yeah, so some of the holes that we've been talking about and so on, this is the money that's going to, that's going to address that. So, again, I just want to assure the residents that we've looked at this as carefully as we can. It went from 12 million to 125 million.
All right, well, thank you very much for the entire team of the Army Corps of Engineers. We appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate your time.
Moving on to the next set of items. We are now going into our public hearings. We have a total of 4. And the first public hearing item is Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District Number 1. I go ahead and open up the hearing. Mr. City Manager, do we have a report?
We don't have a report at this time. Turn it over to the city attorney to continue.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. The report is presented in your agenda package. It'd be appropriate for the chair to ask if there's any comments on this item, either in written form or from members of the public.
To my fellow council members, everyone has a copy of that written communication? Do we have any comments or questions? None? All right. It's appropriate to close this hearing.
We do need to inquire, was there any comments?
There were no oral communications.
So we have that on the record, Mr. Mayor.
Or written.
And do we have any written comments?
There are none.
Or questions? Okay. No written and nor oral, so it's appropriate to close the hearing.
And it comes up to the City Council level for consideration of the recommendation.
So move as recommended.
Make a second.
Okay. And item number 1, public hearing, Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District 1 passes. Can I get a vote? Starting with Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Elias?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And myself, yes, so it's a unanimous. Item number 1, public hearing, Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District Number 1 passes unanimously. Moving on to public hearing, item number 2, Paramount Mines Landscaping Maintenance Assessment District. We'll be opening up this item for public hearing. And to our city manager, do we have a city manager's report?
It is in the package as well, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. And to my fellow council members, please find the packet on your desktop, and do we have any questions or comments? None? Okay. And do we have any written or oral communications to our city clerk, Mr.
There are none.
Rome? None?
None.
Okay, you're making it easy for me. Okay. So at this time, it's appropriate to close the hearing. Item number 2, Paramount Mines Landscaping Maintenance Assessment District. But before we do, may I get a motion?
So moved.
Make a second.
Second, okay, and let's go ahead and do a vote. Councilmember Camacho,
Yes.
Elias,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
and myself, Lutz, yes. Okay, motion passes unanimously. It's appropriate to close public hearing item number 2. Moving on to number 3, substantial amendment. Number 1, to the Community Development Block CDBG Grant Fiscal Year 21 to 22 Annual Action Plan. And it's appropriate to open the public hearing now. And Mr. City Manager is going to go ahead and let all of us on the dais know we have our packet in front of us. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, and to my fellow council members, do we have any questions or comments regarding the packet or this public hearing, item number 3? None. Very good. And any written oral communications from our city clerk?
There are none.
None. Okay. There's something up here. Very good. Okay, it's appropriate to close public hearing item number 3. Moving on to our final public hearing item number 4, proposed.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we do need a vote on that item, and a motion and a vote.
That's right.
Make a second.
Okay, and our vote, Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Okay, Elias?
Yes.
Okay, and Laura?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it's unanimous, and the motion passes. And now it's appropriate to close that item. And finally, public hearing item number 4, proposed budget, fiscal year 2022 to 2023, the preliminary proposed budget. And it's appropriate to open this public hearing. Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, you have the report in there. I would just also just like to remind council that we're continuing to have budget briefings with council members. We'll be reaching out and scheduling prior to the final adoption at the end of the month.
Great. And to my fellow council members on the dais, do we have any comments? None? Okay. And to our city clerk, Ms. Jerome, do we have any written or oral communication?
We have none. Thank you.
None. Okay, very good. And so may I have a motion?
And this motion, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, is to continue the matter to June 28th of 2022.
So move as recommended.
Okay,
I make a second.
second, okay. And so with that, we all, Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Yes. Councilmember Elias?
Yes.
Councilmember Laura?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion passes to continue the item, proposed budget fiscal year 22 to 23, preliminary proposed budget. Now, moving on to the following item, which is a public comment. We'll start off with in-person public comment, and let's go ahead and start with resident Drew Rubin. If you can step up to the microphone. Drew Rubin, are you here today? Okay, Drew Rubin is not here.
I believe it's Cohen.
Drew Cohen. Pastor Drew, someone misspelled your last name here, or they did it in a certain fashion where they're trying to trick me here, because I've known you for years.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes, and you're doing a wonderful job, by the way.
We're doing our best.
Yeah,
Okay.
You're doing a great job.
You have an ample 3 minutes.
Yes, well, okay. It's going to be a world record for me, but my name is Drew Cohen, and Tamara and myself have pastored Hope Community Church for over 22 years. My mom and dad pastored the church for over 25 years. So we've been in this community for almost 50 years, part of this community, just serving at our church. I'm here representing the over 400 individuals that have come through our doors just this week through services, 2 in English on Sunday, 1 in Spanish, and our midweek service. Wednesday is our main youth night, and I can relate to the pride and the job that they're doing. We saw and we see regularly over 50 junior hires and high schoolers that come every Wednesday, and they come from most of them from El Rancho and the 2 junior high schools that are here, and then on Sunday we see over 40 smaller kids, 12 and under, that we're talking to and speaking into their lives. And one of the things that we say to these kids is we tell them that good choices means that you're going to have a good life. And we remind them that bad choices many times turns into a bad life. We want them to understand that it's not just coincidental how their life turns out, but they have a good future. So we represent those people, and I represent those people today. You know, in leadership, many times you get criticized and have people who are complaining. But tonight, I just want to come representing these people and to say thank you. Thank you first to the sheriffs and the great job with the fire that you do. You have such a tough job, and we are praying for all of you, and we are grateful for the job that you do. Second, for the staff, the city staff, we have experienced recent years their kindness and their helpfulness, and we are extremely grateful. And then finally, to the city council. Your leadership and the time that you put in is noticed, and we are appreciative. Tonight, we simply want to say from Hope Community Church and the people that we represent, thank you. It means so much to us. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Drew. I appreciate you coming out. Next public comment in person is Joshua Gallegos. Please step up to the public microphone. Mr. Gallegos, thank you for coming. You know the drill, 3 minutes. Ample 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to keep it short if I can. Ms. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, public staff, and members of the community. My name is Joshua Gallegos, and I too am here. I know most of the time people come here to complain about something, but I'm here not to complain, but to say thank you. Also, like as Pastor Drew, I also attend his church, and I would just want to say that most of the time people always talk about the bad things, especially about the police. I think our sheriff department has done a great job and is still doing a good job in the community. That Pride program is proof of that. Now, as far as myself goes, I'm a member of the community, have been for years. In fact, I go way back to I played football for El Rancho back in the 1960s, and Councilmember Elias also did. We're both members of that, the Ernie Johnson era at those times. And time comes and goes, and played there, and I also a Vietnam veteran, did 3 deployments over there. And I'm a member of the community, and I took a great pride in being a member of the VFW post, 6315. And twice I was asked to be a speaker for the city of Pico Rivera in a couple of the veteran ceremonies that they had there, which was a great honor for me. And I want to say thank you for that. And all. And whenever I talk to my fellow veterans, I always put a good word about Pico Rivera being friendly to veterans. When Bob Archuleta was here, he left a great legacy behind. And he's when he's around, he can't come down. We appreciate seeing him again, but it goes on from there. And just wanted to say, of course, as Pastor Drew says, thank you so much for what you do. And people always usually look for the negative things to say. I go the opposite way. I kind of built up a little. I hear something negative, I like to go the other way. I've just retired from teaching at Rio Hondo College. I was there for 40 years. And so I'm walking sometimes somewhere. I see somebody go, they go, hey, professor. I go, turn around and go, oh, they'll say something like that. And I go, well, not anymore, actively anyway. But my grandchildren play baseball and softball here, and I enjoy going to the games and watching them there. But I'll tell you something that really gives me pride. Is when they were playing here at the baseball here at Smith Park, they take time to play the national anthem. And that says a lot. And I take appreciation for that. And here in this council meeting, it really warmed my heart to hear, that you still take time for prayer, and that's important, and also the Pledge of Allegiance, which means a lot to an old vet like me. So I just want to say an appreciation to you all and the work you're doing. Thank you all, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Gallegos. Thank you for your public comment. Deputy City Clerk Cynthia Ayala, do we have any email?
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, we have 2 speakers via Zoom. First speaker is Jose Sanchez.
Mr. Sanchez, you have your mic open, 3 minutes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Vaguely hear you. We need you to speak a little louder, or we need our technical room to work on something here for you.
Okay, can you take the second speaker? Let me see if I can get a different mic here.
Okay, repeat that one more time.
Can you take the second speaker so I can get a different mic?
Okay, so we're going to move on to our second speaker over the telephone, and that would be Deputy City Clerk
Eugenia Lopez.
Ms. Lopez. You have the microphone. If you can hear us, 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members and fellow residents. I am here once again. The last time I was before you, it was February, trying to address the ordinance that deals with disturbance of the peace. As it stands currently, it is in need of an element that defines the time. Reason being is that the last time I presented an example that is currently still, parties after 2 a.m. So it has to be, that's why I'm requesting and urging you to begin the process of updating that to reflect today's residents in 2022 to include that time element. So it will make crystal clear to officers or code enforcement, because also code enforcement from, Pico Rivera has gone out, has tried to educate these residents on what it means to live in an area zoned as residential, not mixed use, but residential, the responsibility of living in such a zone. And they've disregarded it. So that is why it has to be crystal clear in the ordinance. So then when the officers see it and it's past 2 a.m., they will act on it. And the time that they go out, the music will completely stop. We're talking about this last party that they had, that these residents had, it went from 4 p.m. in the afternoon this past Saturday to 3:30 a.m. on Sunday. Now, this family, the last party they had, with the assistance of, and I thank them, the sheriffs that went out the first time, 12:30, they complied. And by 1 o'clock, they shut everything down. So I much appreciate, the effort that the sheriffs are making in that respect. But like I said, it has to be crystal clear, because after 11 hours, sir, of banda music, they have live music that has microphone access, and also they switch on to a DJ. Now I'm talking that this is considered noise that disturbs the peace and quiet that allows for rest. So I'm urging you, because there will be, for the most part, no problem, especially during this season when you have graduations. We've had in this area graduations, gatherings, parties, no problem. 12 o'clock, they begin, it's shut down. They begin to shut down before, no problem to call the police. End of year parties, also the same thing. They begin to shut down before 12, it all ends. But there's always gonna be those 1% to 2% individuals that think that they're beyond the ordinance.
Thank you for your comment. We appreciate your comment.
Thank you, sir, for your service.
And returning back to Mr. Sanchez, you have your 3 minutes, sir. Mr. Sanchez, one more opportunity. Are you on the line? All right. And Ms. Deputy City Clerk, do we have any other comments via Zoom or email?
No, that is it.
Okay. Very good. So that is appropriate to close public comments. Now moving on to the next item, which is our items 1 through 21. Those are consent calendar items. And out of those items 1 through 21, to my fellow council members on the dais, do we have any that would like to be pulled out of 1 through 21?
Mayor Pro Tem, they're actually items 5 through 19.
Okay.
They're on consent calendar.
Consent calendar items, I stand corrected, items 5 through 19. 5 through 19, are there any of these items that my fellow council members would like to pull? Yes, Councilmember Elias?
Yes, item 8 for discussion, and item 13 for separate meeting.
Okay. All righty. And for my rest of our council members, any other items that we want to pull? Okay. So for items of 5 through 19, excluding 8 and 13, may we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve those items.
Second, okay. And may we have roll call with Councilmember Camacho
Yes.
and Councilmember Elias? Yes. Councilmember Laura?
Yes.
Yes, and myself is a yes. So that is unanimous to approve the consent calendar items 5 through 19, excluding 8 and 13. Now moving on to item number 18. Councilmember Elias, item number 8, opening for discussion.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. I understand that this is basic for the general municipal election, but I just wanted to make sure that we had a couple of items that we've talked about for quite length that are going to be on the ballot. I wanted to be sure that the term limits were going to be placed on the ballot, and also the cannabis vote would be given on the ballot. You know, the citizens deserve the right to vote on these important issues.
Okay, got it. And Mr. City Manager, do we have any update on the cannabis and the term limits?
There was no direction from council regarding putting that item on the ballot, so if that's something council wanted to do prior to August 12th, that's something that we can put together for a council vote.
And that is which item? Term limits or cannabis?
The cannabis. I believe council gave direction on the term limits in a previous meeting.
Okay.
But
And
we'll
if we-
verify that.
Okay, got it. And any other comments on consent calendar number 8? Councilmember Laura?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to speak with the city clerk, Ms. Jerome, about these additional items, because when you go through and you look for the budget, we're budgeting $200,000 for this item. In the memo, it states that it's for the election and then also for 4 potential resolutions that may be placed on the ballot. Now, as far as I understand, there's only 2 that I know of. There is the term limits, and then there's the potential for business license fee increase, which we have yet to approve, which is being researched, which will be brought back to us. I don't know what other 2 items there could potentially be, but on speaking with the city clerk, she reassured me that we have till August to make sure that those items are done, are brought before us as resolutions so that they will appear on the November ballot. So there's still time.
Mayor Pro Tem, do we need to agendize the items then?
Yes, Mr. City Manager, can we follow through with agendizing this item?
Yeah, I think maybe at good of the order, if there is a will for council to put a matter to place it on the ballot, that would be the appropriate time to get a first and a second, and then that would be brought back to council for a vote whether to place that item on the ballot.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Should I move to, or request that we agendize the
And the
items
good of
there?
the order?
I'd like, Mr. Mayor Pro
Yes.
Tem, I'd like to make a motion to approve these items so we can finish this item in particular.
All right. Well, do we have any additional comments from the rest of the council members on the dais? No? Okay,
We
so
need
we
a
have a
second.
motion, and we have a second from Councilmember Elias, and may we have a vote? Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Elias?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And myself, yes. And that's a unanimous vote to move forward with approving general municipal election November 18th recommendation of city staff. And now moving on to item number 13 that was pulled. And let's go over 13, pulled by Councilmember Elias. Approve the amendment number 5 to agreement 181807 with S&S Labarge Golf Incorporated for Pico Rivera Golf Course Management Services. Councilmember Elias.
Today, we were presented some information from the Corps of Engineers that I think, may provide some further discussion or require further discussion on the approval of the amendment. So I would ask that we have a discussion group on this to realize the implications of what was presented today.
Do you want to go ahead and make that suggestion in the good of the order?
Yes, in fact, do I put it on the agenda in terms of, I've discussed it with you for a study group or?
Sure, we can, Mr. City Manager and Mr. City Attorney, what's your recommendation here to move forward in that direction?
If I'm understanding, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, if I'm understanding Councilmember Elias's, it is to re-examine this agreement, and to refer it back to some kind of study group?
Yes.
As opposed to taking action on approving this matter. I don't know whether or not, and I'll turn to the city manager, on whether or not this must have action this evening or where we stand.
So we are on a yearly contract right now that's going to end on June 30th because we thought last year that we were going to be closing the golf course. And SS Labarge has been in good faith managing the golf course, of course, with the banquet hall as well. And so this contract is ending at the end in 2 weeks' time. So we'll be out of contract. So it's in our best interest to extend the contract, or if you wanted to, we could bring it back in 2 weeks, of course, but that would be the last moment at June 28th. Otherwise, we would be out of contract. There is 2 one-year agreement extensions onto this because we were aware that it's possibly that we might be open until 2025. So this contract would protect us for the next 3 years if that's what the council would like.
Councilmember Elias, do you want to make a motion?
Well, I want to hear from...
Yeah, so I just want to make a brief comment. So it's my understanding that this is for $4,000 a month for management services up to $48,000, correct?
Per year, yeah, and he has not increased his rates over the last 2 or 3 years.
I just real briefly, I'm someone who's prone to approve that, and this is why. Managing that golf course has just been it's been a moving target as a result of the Army Corps of Engineer. There's been multiple obstacles that have been put before them. The driving range is down, the elimination of some holes. And as the director had just told us, we thought the golf course was going to be closed by this point in time, or at least like 3/4 of it was going to be closed. So, from what I get from the community, there are still residents that enjoy going there. And it's still used. I think it'll be used more so in a year with the possibility of bringing up the driving range. And as the engineer told us, the community can still use that till 2025. So I'm prone to approve this item just because it's just very limited in scope and nature in terms of the financial liability that the city's putting out.
Yes. Councilmember Camacho.
Yeah, and just going on what Councilmember Lara mentioned, I don't think anything has really changed other than to discuss, different approaches. But to me, nothing has changed from the presentation or the issue of one. In my opinion, if we were to close it sooner than later, are the risk factor of having other issues impact greater than what it costing us to this, and it's an enterprise fund. Second, this is a recreational space, and I still see it as a recreational space, not just like any of our parks. So I'm ready to approve this item.
Mr. City Manager, I do have a question on the original contract, and also for our city attorney. Is there wording to the effect that there is a flat fee given to Labarge, whether or not there are reservations made for the banquet hall, or money made or not made in the golf course? A guaranteed flat fee to them, Labarge.
For services, it's a flat fee, 4,000. They don't get anything.
For example, when COVID hit and we were closed for 3 months, he was still getting paid his 4,000. He still had employees to pay. So that's our agreement.
So the agreement is 4,000 guaranteed to cover.
The management, not only of the golf course, but the lease agreements, working with us, the banquet hall, managing that. The banquet hall in itself is a huge undertaking.
Okay.
The beer and liquor license and all that.
Okay. Additional comments from Andreas?
Well, yes, because again, we're showing on the budget projections already that there's going to be a 3 million, okay? There's going to be a 3 million deficit. So when you say there's only 4,000 that is being spent a month, that's incorrect. Because when you start taking a look at the maintenance situation is $70,000 a month, okay? $70,000 a month for a 9-hole. $70,000 a month is equivalent to an 18-hole in terms of the maintenance situation. 20% of the people that play golf are residents. There are items that we have to discuss before we do this because we want to do this responsibly. And again, the situation is that we have new information. We have to take this information and be able to come up with a responsible approach to this contract. Because again, it's on the budget as a $3 million deficit, and we need to address these kinds of deficits. We're talking about an extension here. We should be talking about conditions of the extension. We should be talking about performance factors.
Yes, Councilmember Lara?
Yeah, no, those are some good points, but I would point out that $3 million didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen on the watch of this management company, Labarge. When you go back and you look at the numbers, and we have, you find that a lot of that deficit took place about 4 or 5 years ago. There was large amounts of deficits that had taken place there under a different management group. So I agree with you that there is a large number of, there is a deficit. However, the rate at which that deficit is accruing now has greatly minimized. And I think that's because of new management. I also see it as it's not going to go on forever. Okay? There's a sunset in terms of just physically. We know that at some point in time, the Army Corps of Engineers is going to come and they're going to shut that place down because it's going to be a staging ground. It's just going to go away, unfortunately, for this community. So, and right now that's being told that that's 2025. Okay, I'm not holding my breath because they could come back and say it's 2028, and then we'll have to reassess things. But what's before us right now that we're voting on is not $70,000. It's a $4,000 continuation of the contract. Now, if you wanted to do a contingency and state that, why don't we approve the budget so that it stays open? Okay, because it's going to expire in about 2 weeks, I guess. And if you want to bring it back and look at the budget, I'd be happy to do that. I'd be happy to look at the numbers because we've done this before. But I think for the sake of the community, I think we need to at least allow this. We need to allow it to stay open at least for a few more months. If we're going to go through and look at this, just so that we give some security to the management company, we give some security to the community, and we allow city staff to pull numbers and look at this thing, and then we could talk about it on the dais.
You provided a perfect argument for why we need an extension on this for discussion. You laid it out perfectly.
Yeah,
the idea of doing it backwards, bothers me a little.
Well, look, I can only hit the.
You're saying put them on contract and then we could discuss
Well, I can only hit the ball that's being pitched to me, okay? I can't dictate on what's before me. What's before me right now that's been given to us is the extension of this contract at $4 million a month, which I think is fair, okay?
No.
Personally, I think it's fair. But I think what I'm saying is I think we should approve an extension for at least a few months. Let's research it. We could come back and then we could have a vote whether or not we want to close it because it's just too much of an expense, or we just continue it until 2025. But what's before us is the extension of the contract that expires in 2 weeks.
Let's do it by month.
But don't we have a clause that we can limit, we can,
Yeah, I don't think the operator would accept those terms.
we could eliminate the contract, a clause that we can eliminate the contract whenever we wish to, assuming that be the case in the near future.
So before us, we have two motions, and the first motion was from Councilmember Elias. As is, he wants to carry over and agendize the item for the following meeting, the following council meeting. Subsequently would be the 28th. That would be prior to the expiration. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
No second for a responsible approach to this?
So I just want clarification, if that's okay, Mayor Pro Tem. So the motion is to carry this over to the next city council meeting. And this will be an agendized item to look at finances and to hear arguments whether or not we extend this contract or not. Is that what you want?
Right.
So will that be within the time limit of the contract expiring?
Yes, it will be. I'm just not sure if the contractor would feel that that was agreeable. I'm not sure. We'd have to pitch it to him.
Okay.
One other point, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Council, and I was going through the contract as you're having this discussion. The original contract, of which there's been a series of amendments, this is the fifth amendment, it provides the city shall have the option in its sole discretion and without cause to terminate the agreement in whole or in part by giving 30 business days written notice to the contractor. So you have a very short fuse contained within your original contract in any event. Just that's for information purposes only.
And Mr. City Manager and Mr. City Attorney, for clarification purposes, the motion that Councilmember Elias mentioned is to take this and agendize for the following meeting prior to the expiration of the contract, thus allowing the council members to sit and ask questions of the contract with the city attorney and the city manager. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. And
If I may, I'd like to make a subsidiary motion that we just pass this item as is right now. And given that it's a subsidiary motion, that would take precedence in regards to the vote.
Second that.
Okay.
okay, so if I understand correctly, repeat that for me, Councilmember Lara. Subsidiary motion.
It's actually a substitute motion to that.
Thank you. Thank you. Substitute motion that we just approve amendment number 5 or item number 13.
Okay, so we have the motion by Councilmember Lara, and we have a second by Councilmember Camacho, and let's do a vote on that. Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Elias?
Yes.
And then Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion passes to approve item number 13. Okay.
To approve it?
To approve it. We're approving the...
To approve it?
To approve the contract.
I
Did you
thought he-
misunderstand?
Okay, can I fix my vote? Because again, that was, my understanding was that we were not going to vote on this.
So you want to amend your vote to a no?
No,
No, not approving the contract.
not approving the contract.
Okay. So just to backtrack, it is 3 yeses, Camacho, Lutz, and Laura, 1 no for Elias, not approving the contract. The motion passes. Now we're moving on to the next item, which is the Water Authority, items 20 to 21. Introduce an ordinance adding section 12.20.170 street cut moratorium to Title 12 Street Sidewalks and Public Spaces.
Actually, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that's part of the regular agenda for the city council. Item 20. Item 21 is the water authority.
I stand corrected. Item 21, restated, declaration of emergency water conservation provisions. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. And do we have any comments or questions from the dais?
That was part of the consent,
And this is on item number 20.
or number 20.
I need some clarification here. Which item are we on now?
My apologies, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We've completed the consent agenda. Then we move to the regular agenda. The first item on the regular agenda is item number 20 under the city council's consideration, and that is the introduction of the ordinance that you did just read relating to adding section 12.20.170 street cut moratorium, and as it states in the agenda. It's being recommended by the city staff to approve this item.
Yes, we have Terry Rodriguez online if there's any questions, but I just would like to let council know that this item has been pulled a couple times. It gave us the opportunity to meet with concerned parties, utilities like Edison, Southern California Gas Company. There are modifications that appear to be amenable to those entities, and so this is for your consideration for adoption.
Unless there's any questions, it'd be appropriate to take council consideration and action.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Just wanted to add that, no, this is a couple years in the making. I know this is something that we want to make sure that as we repair and reconstruct our roads, we don't want any other utility agency to come in and break it up once again because they need to do some repairs. There is basically letting them know that if you need to do some work, get it done before this period, because we are not going to fix our roads and then break them up again. So I'm glad it's here. We had an opportunity for staff to meet with all these utility companies, and so I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay. Councilmember Camacho makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Yes.
I'd like to ask, before I give a second or think about giving a second, I have a question for the Public Works Director. Is Terry on the line?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Director Rodriguez. My question is, just for the obvious, were you able to meet with all the relevant utility user groups about this moratorium? Did they sign off on it? Were there major concerns? And that's basically what I'd like to know.
Sure. Thank you, council members of the city council. There had been some concerns at an earlier version that was proposed sometime last year, and we went back and revised this ordinance based on some concerns. After we did the revisions, we did email and let them know that the new version was available and gave it to them for their comments, but we received no comments back from the revised version.
Okay, thank you. With that, I give a second.
All right, and let's take it to vote. Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Elias?
Yes.
And Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it's unanimous. Item number 20 passes. And now let's bring our attention to the Water Authority. Item number 21, Declaration of Emergency Water Conservation Provisions. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, I also have Terry Rodriguez on the line to introduce this ordinance, and any questions he's available to answer.
Director Rodriguez, if you can give us a brief summary on this item 21, please.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. This item is recommended by staff as a resolution to declare a level 2 water supply shortage. This is in accordance with the city's municipal code and also to comply with the State Water Resources Control Board's regulations that they passed in January of this year. The regulations they passed or they adopted requiring new water restrictions were to adhere to the governor's executive order, which was passed earlier. It was passed actually in October of 21. In essence, this order requires the city of Pico Rivera. This is again, now the city, not the water authority yet. This is regarding the city's usage of water to reduce water use by 20% in fiscal year 22-23. It requires mandatory reporting to the state. It prohibits watering of ornamental turf on landscape medians. It also requires the city to enforce regulations and requirements on newly constructed buildings and developments. These requirements were issued by the California Building Standards Commission and the Department of Housing and Community Development. And in addition to the city's requirements, the Pico Rivera Water Authority will also be required to provide reports as a water purveyor. Most of the requirements that the state has issued are already included in the city's water conservation ordinance. And in some instances, the city's code is actually goes beyond the state's requirements. However, there are a couple of relatively minor items in which we are incorporating or recommending and be incorporated into our ordinance to meet the state requirements. And with that, we just recommend council approve a resolution declaring a level 2 water supply shortage. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from my fellow council members? None. I do have a question, Director Rodriguez. For the residents listening and watching, what is their obligation, their modified usage of water should this item 21 be passed by the council?
Yes, we actually have a flyer going out with regards to that issue. And one of the conditions of the ordinance is the way that people can water their landscaping. And I'm scrolling to the ordinance now so that I can be accurate with my answer. Sorry. We'll have address numbering with odd number addresses with a 2-day-a-week watering schedule, and even number addresses also with a 2-day-a-week watering schedule. So people will be required to follow this recommended watering schedule of 2 days a week from April through October, and then 1 day a week from November through March. And so we've got a recommended schedule, which we will finalize and advertise to the community. And then there's certain things in terms of like when you refill pools and spas, and initial filling of pools and spas. So there's a number of things that we are putting out to the community so they understand what their requirements are. A third one that I forgot to mention is filling of ornamental ponds is actually prohibited except to sustain existing aquatic life that people have in ornamental ponds. So there's a variety of items, water-saving measures that we'll be issuing to the community through flyers and social media and through education, basically.
And Director Rodriguez, is this a recommendation or is this a mandatory item by the state?
This is a mandatory item for at least through the next fiscal year.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Make a second.
Okay, so motion to approve by Councilmember Camacho, a second by Councilmember Lara. Let's take it to vote. Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Elias?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
And myself, yes, unanimous. Item number 21 passes. Now, moving on to the city's manager report.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, just some quick updates. As you may be aware, Rosemead Boulevard paving has started. It should be completed by the end of the week. We need the pavement to cure prior to thermoplastic striping. That should be done by the week of July, if not sooner. Gallatin Road has also begun. The contractor will start hard construction August 1st. We're getting a schedule, and we'll continue to keep council updated on that. Also on June 18th, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., there'll be pet vaccinations here in the City Hall parking lot. So we'll be putting some information out to the community, notifying them of that. Also, the second edition of the City Manager's Report, which has a more comprehensive report on some of the efforts we have been doing citywide, is available online. We'll be coming out with that third report shortly. And so if you have any questions on that, it seems that we've been getting some positive feedback on that as well. At this time, I would like to turn over to the display. I think I didn't realize we have some athletes around City Hall, but I wanted to show a video displaying some of those athleticism efforts. Gabe?
Today we're at Smith Park for the Go-Getters versus the City softball game. This is the first time we've done it in 3 years, but we're back, and it's actually the 31st anniversary of the Go-Getters team. It's a senior softball league for ages 50, and I believe we have players that are over 90 years old. So it's really exciting. The score is tie, and we're at the top of the 6th inning, and we're battling, but the Go-Getters are good.
And we're at the softball game between the Go-Getters and the entire city staff of Pico Rivera. And I have to say, we're in the middle of the game, and we are being embarrassed. The score right now, Gil, your team players are how many? What's the score?
It is City Hall 1, Go-Getters 4.
4-1, Go-Getters.
It's an annual event. We skipped it for a couple of years, but it's great to be back with all our senior league, the Go-Getters, who have celebrated the 31st anniversary, of which today we're tied. Go-Getters have won 11 games in the history of this league, and the city has won 11 games.
This was an amazing event. It was really fun. It reminded me of being back in elementary school when the students would play the teachers on the last days of school. They would play kickball. That's what this reminded me of.
It's grown to be quite a program. And like I said before, I don't think there's any other game like ours here in the state of California or any other place.
I couldn't play with better players. I enjoyed their family, the parties, and the gathering, and all the teams.
I feel very energized. I feel young. I feel that we're out here to have fun and enjoy the rest of our retirement. Wow, it's really, really enthusiastic and fun, and wow, they're winning, we're winning, yeah!
They kicked our butt.
There's always next year, everybody. That concludes my city manager reports.
That was fun.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. That was great. We all participated. We lost, but we need to sharpen up our skills. We should keep our day job. This. All right. Moving on to the next item. It's the good of the order. We're going to be starting with Councilmember Lara this time, and let's start with new business.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So given the events that occurred in Uvalde, Texas, with the killing of 19 school children along with 2 school teachers, it's brought focus into the protection of our schools. And I was heartened to see that Sheriff Villanueva, he posted on Twitter today that there were multiple sites where the sheriffs went to local schools. and walked around just to become more acquainted with the physical layout. I think that's something that needs to be done here. I've talked to a few school board members, and we've talked about the SRO officer and how that's potentially, that's something that's a need, not only just for security, but just for other aspects that this SRO officer brings. So I'd like to ask for a second to bring back this item to the council so that we could potentially work with the El Rancho Unified School District in funding. I know that over the past, there's been a 50-50 split regarding this SRO officer and the budget, but I'd like to bring this back to the full council for a discussion and potentially giving direction to city staff to meet with the El Rancho Unified School District and to come up with a plan and potential budgeting for the SRO officer. If I can get a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Secondly, I, along with Director Caitlin McGee, along with the city manager, we had the opportunity to sit down with a nonprofit within our community that I believe, given the rate structure of Edison and the changes and what Prime has done to try to keep up with those evolving changes, is impacted negatively. They're impacted because the majority of their program takes place in the evenings. And as you know, with the current rate structure, you're penalized for using electricity in the evening. And I told this story then, but I'll tell this story now. My wife doesn't allow me to wash clothes between the times of 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. because she doesn't want to incur the extra charge. And given that inflation and things are tight, that just makes sense, right? So I alter the way I manage my household based upon that, just small changes. But unfortunately, there are nonprofits that they're unable to do that because they hold events in their places, either places of worship or buildings that they congregate in. And, they can't work around that. So there was discussion, there was a spirit of understanding, and there was a spirit of listening and trying to understand what that problem was. And I think it was good because I got an education. I got an education because it's not every day that you get to sit down with a user group that's using a lot of electricity for their services, and they're being faced with the bill, right? So the thought came up, and I'll wrap this up. The thought came up is that could we legally look into programs that could offer a potential discount to nonprofit groups? And the initial answer was no, but with a potential second, I'd like to direct the city attorney to potentially look at this issue and to give us a report and to be creative in regards of potentially giving a discount for nonprofits within our community for their electrical bill, given that we do govern a utility, Prime, and I believe in local control, and that's what it is. And I believe that local control deserves local answers to problems within our community. So if I could get a second to direct the city attorney.
Second.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Lara, I wanted a clarification on that because I see an opportunity for abuse for nonprofits that really have no audience or core group of followers that go on a daily or a weekly basis, and they simply just take advantage of that. So I think investigating whether there's a possibility to do that would be great, and then also narrowing it down to avoid abuse.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I think that's important. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk about a few events, so no new business. I'm just going to talk old business and meetings. Should I do that now, or would you like me to wait, Mayor?
We're going to swing over to Councilmember Elias. He'll do his new business, and as well as Camacho.
Okay. Let me begin with reporting on our first parking ad hoc meeting. Parking is a serious problem here in the city of Pico Rivera, but it's a serious problem all over the country. And, it's a situation that we've had, several reports on the parking situation here. And it's complicated. It's complicated. And, the members of the ad hoc understand how complicated it is. And what what we scheduled ourselves to do in our first meeting was to dedicate ourselves into becoming familiar with the study itself. And, from understanding there, establishing an agenda as to what actually we can do about this. The report in itself talks about the complexity of the neighborhood, okay? Not all places are congested according to their definition. But the most interesting part of it is that the solutions, okay, it leads the recommendation that the city of Pico Rivera has to come up with operable solutions. Operable solutions. That's going to be the challenge that we're going to have in front of us. So we plan to have an ad hoc this week to go into it. But again, I really like the attitude of staff, and I like the attitude of the members here in the way that we're taking this this challenge on. And again, our goal is going to be able to generate an action plan for the council to consider. Again, that's my ad hoc. The other item, Mayor Pro Tem, is that to follow on Councilman Laura's concern about school safety. I have to say that I'm very involved in this situation because I'm a teacher that is willing to take a bullet in the case of any student to protect the students here. So, it's a situation where I understand the teacher's position and I understand the student position. So it's a lot more grave to me and serious than it would to anyone else. In fact, I experienced the first gun threat that occurred at El Rancho High School. Okay, I experienced that very thing. And what came of it was that there was a lack of cooperation or understanding between the city and the district. Okay, between the city and the district. The district has its own police department because, again, every time you step on a school campus, it becomes the state of California. Okay, so it's a jurisdiction situation in here. Now, one of the concerns that comes, and again, I voted on the RSO, but one RSO to cover the entire community, they would have to average 45 minutes per school because we have that number of schools there. Okay, so that is just one aspect of it. And in fact, again, there needs to be a conversation. There needs to be coordinating. Now, we're gifted with, one of the finest, that I've heard here, is that our captain comes from SWAT, so she knows exactly the situation, that we're confronted with. And I'm also hearing from the district police, okay, that are basically saying there's no easy solution to this. We have to work together. So, Mayor Pro Tem, what I'm doing is that I'm asking, under your jurisdiction, because you have the ability to call a special meeting, that we call a special meeting with the district and the council to sit down and discuss this and come up with a strategy, protocols, procedures, drills, and practices that we can get this assurance here. The district officer said that the last time we had a drill was 8 years ago. It was 8 years ago, okay? So again, there has to be that need. There also has to be a need for the district to realize that it has to get into the protection and safety business itself. Currently, there's only, I think, 2 or 3 officers in it, okay? And that is not going to be sufficient to be able to develop or create the kind of response mechanism that we need. So there really has to become a discussion, not only of the public safety individuals from the city and the district, but also its leaders. So I ask that you call a special meeting for us to get together, a public meeting, and allow public comment so we hear.
Sure. Councilmember Elias, thank you for that suggestion. And I think this is, we're all in agreement, the entire body here of the council, that we would like to work collaboratively with the school board. Now, I co-chair with the mayor, Sanchez, a joint ad hoc where we communicate items of importance with the school board, and we have an upcoming meeting. Now, in addition to this upcoming meeting, we're going to be discussing this topic of our children's safety while on campus. Can we schedule thereafter a more robust city and school meeting that the public is allowed to address their concerns?
Certainly, if that's the council's desire, we can do that. I know it would be important to meet with the ad hoc members to have this discussion, and if each selective body wants to do that, then that's appropriate.
Okay. So do we all feel comfortable with doing those two items? First, that joint ad hoc committees get together, and then we have that collective public and elected officials question and answer session. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Any other new items?
Yes. I just wanted to get the progress of the Veterans Resource Center location. Have we decided on what location?
Yes, I'm currently discussing that. We have identified a potential location, and we're just finalizing that as well.
How long will that take?
We'd like to have some input from the established Veterans Commission. So once we get that up and running, we'd like to run it by to make sure that there's input and there's some buy-off from this commission. So I don't know if we've received enough applications yet with the city clerk, but we'll report that out to council at the next meeting.
And my last item is in support of Councilman Laura's prime customer situation. Prime is supposed to be a community-based utility company. And, you know, I look at it from the moral and decent portion of it and understand it, but I can understand it from the business standpoint too. These organizations have numbers of people, okay, numbers of people, and I'm sure that not everyone is a prime contractor, okay? So, you know, we may have a situation of being able to address a problem, but also increase business, you know, with the associations that we have, you know, with our and call them community partners in this.
Councilmember Camacho, new business.
I just have one item, just really to promote what was stated by the city manager. It's the mobile pet vaccine clinic that is taking place this Saturday, low cost, 10 to 2 p.m. here at City Hall. So for all the pet-friendly residents that are here in the city of Pico Rivera, there's going to be a clinic here this Saturday. So please come.
And I have no new business of my own, and we're going to move forward to old business. Councilmember Lara.
Yes, thank you. I too just briefly want to speak on the Go-Getters. That was fun and humbling at the same time. I had one at bat. I was placed last. I'm still hot about that. I'm not. I'm just playing. I had one at bat, and I tipped it, and it was an out because it was a full count, 3-2. So I didn't even get a hit. So I'm anxious for next year. But in all reality, it was fun. It was fun looking at seniors, you know, run, catch, do all the things,
Be careful.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yes,
No,
okay.
I know. But do all the things that society says that they're not supposed to do, right? They're not supposed to play softball and run the bases, right? Well, some in society say that, but to see a group of seniors do that, and to be active, and to be vibrant, it was just fun. It was just fun to be around. It was a good environment, and I'm going to stop before I continue to get myself in trouble.
Yes, thank you.
Because the wording didn't come out right, and I apologize if anyone got offended. I want to briefly recognize Pastor Drew for coming. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your words. Thank you for inviting us to Hope Community Church. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for everything you do for this community and for our youth and for people who are broken and people who are spiritually broken, mentally, physically, financially broken, because it is truly a place of healing. And I want to thank you for that. Lastly, I had the opportunity of attending movies in the park, and that was a really nice event. My boy and I really enjoyed that. That was above and beyond what we thought it was going to be. Thank you, and it was well attended. And thank you for just putting together that wholesome entertainment for our community. You know, I saw seniors there as couples with no kids.
Holy smokes, what's...
But they were there. They were there because they were enjoying wholesome entertainment. So it just wasn't kids. It just wasn't for little kids. It was for our community to come out and enjoy a night under the stars with movies. And that's it. Thanks. I'm going to stop before.
Councilmember Elias, old business.
You want me to respond to him?
We're all
Yes,
one. We're all one.
We run, we love, we eat, we sleep, we do all things that people do. Okay? So, you know, I appreciate how blatantly ignorant you are.
You know, I'll take that. I'll take that because at the end of the day, the city got beat. The city got beat. And it was funny because I thought Team 2 was going to take the day. I thought they were going to score a bunch of runs, and they didn't. They didn't. So kudos.
Okay.
That's old news for me, or
okay.
old business.
Councilmember Camacho, old business.
Yes, I too wanted to thank Pastor Drew for being here with us today. You've been an awesome member of this community. You've become a staple of this community in so many different ways. It's always great to see you out in the community, but particularly here coming and visiting us. Thank you, and thank you for doing the invocation for us as well. You know, just briefly on the Go-Getters game. Once again, my mission was just to make contact with the ball, so I don't want to strike out. But that's a success in itself. But it's just fun to play. You know, it's one of the oldest, original. It's just different from many other cities. This is something that is unique to our community, and they've expanded the group itself. And it's great that they have this activity. And quite frankly, they've always kicked our butt up until we started recruiting 21-year-olds from Parks and Recs, and then all of a sudden we got, you know, bragging rights because we, you know, all these young kids. But now that we even the playing field, they've continued to kick our butt. So I don't know if we're going to do any better. But nonetheless, the Go-Getters, that was fun. Let's continue doing that. Quite frankly, I wish that we do this twice a year and not just wait annually. Second, just wanted to congratulate the Pio Pico Women's Club for their annual fashion show that they had this Sunday over at Pico Park. They did a great job, good fundraiser for them, and it was great being there with my wife on this event. Second, I did, you know, because of the Summit of the Americas, we did have many dignitaries in Los Angeles, and I had the opportunity to co-host and welcoming Assistant Secretary Alejandra Castillo from the U.S. Commerce that came to Pico Rivera. I had quite a few elected officials and business leaders, chambers of commerce throughout the area to have a discussion on funding both for cities but also for businesses. I think it was a great discussion on economic development that we brought to the city of Pico Rivera and will continue. So thank the Assistant Secretary for being, which happens to be the first Latino to take on this position with this cabinet, with the president. Lastly, just wanted to highlight, I did under AB 1234, did attend a couple of conferences, one California Contract Cities Association, which we had topics of discussion regarding to housing, building, better communities, workforce development, water and infrastructure, amongst other topics. In addition to that, we went to the International Conference of Shopping Centers, which we had an opportunity to meet with some retailers and developers to attract new businesses in our city as well. So that concludes my report, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Old business that I'd like to cover. Item one, the Sheriff's Pride graduation. It was one of the first items that we discussed today, and I was very proud to participate and watch as elected official how these kids change their lives and their perspective on their future. So again, thanks very much to the Pico Rivera Sheriff Station, our Captain Hutak, and the rest of the sheriff that dedicate the time, in addition to their normal working hours, to the Sheriff's Pride project. And the other item I wanted to discuss is the Pico Rivera Hitmen Award Ceremony. And Pico Rivera Hitmen is a group of a baseball league here. It's a travel ball that helps their kids take it to another level. They invited us, the city, to represent the city, and they gave us the Pico Rivera Hitmen Baseball Academy a plaque of recognition to the city, and I want to show that to the camera in appreciation for supporting them. So thank you very much to the Pico Rivera Hitmen Baseball Academy for providing us a plaque to the city. It was great to attend that event. The parents were awarded accolades and appreciation from the kids because the parents sacrificed the time and the energy to take their kids to practice because they ultimately want their kids to be the best they can be. The other item that I attended was the Durfee grade separation. Boy, a sigh of relief to have that Durfee street done so that you don't have to wait for the railroad. And that's excellent for the businesses. All the businesses were waiting patiently for that to take care. So we went to the ribbon cutting. I think the entire dais here, we went out and enjoyed that ribbon cutting where we had a lot of our elected officials that worked hard on that project. And it was a project that took many, many years in the making, and it finally completed itself to the benefit of our residents. And of course, we attended the Memorial Day observance out there on Mines, and that was a beautiful ceremony in remembrance of our veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice for our community and our entire country at large. And of course, the seniors go-getter softball game. What did I learn from that? We lost, and I'm now going to the batting cages at Rivera Park to improve my bat. I don't want to lose next time as bad as we did, and so I'm going to make sure that I hit a home run. But it was great to be out in the open, in the fresh air. Pico Rivera is officially open and alive. And, you know, after all the tough times that we've had over the last 2 years, it was so refreshing to have the community out there laughing, our blood flowing, and all of us doing exercise and wanting more. So it was a great experience. That was the highlight of my entire year thus far. So I have to say I really, really enjoyed being involved in that. And putting on our gear that said Pico Rivera with our special numbers that we have on the back of our jerseys was really, really nice. The other item that I'd like to discuss are the two ad hoc committees that I belong to. I chair, which is the Public Safety Ad hoc Committee, and there we had that meeting with the city manager and the rest of the staff, and we discussed a couple items. One of the items was the flock safety camera system, that are those safety cameras that alert our sheriff's department on individuals or groups of people that are up to no good coming into the neighborhood or exiting the neighborhood. We can access their plate information on their vehicles, and if we can have our Captain Hutak discuss the benefits of how the security of our community is going to level up incredibly with the implementation of the flock's safety security cameras.
Sure. So the security cameras are license plate readers. And whenever there is a crime committed, whether in the city of Pico Rivera or outside of the city that come into the city, the license plate reader cameras will read the plate, and that information will then be transmitted to our units so that we can make contact with the vehicle. Obviously, first verifying the plate and the information, but quite often we get, when crimes are committed, there are witnesses who give great information. They get suspect information, vehicle information, plate information, and by the time, we are able to respond, the suspects have left. And so this is going to give us an opportunity to solve crimes that would otherwise go unsolved.
Yeah.
Or take a long time to solve. One of the advantages about this system is that we are surrounded by sister cities and communities who are using these systems as well. And so if there is a crime that's committed in Pico Rivera and they go to a neighboring city that has flock cameras and this individual or the vehicle is detained and the suspects are ultimately arrested, it can be in another city and they'll know that it generated from Pico Rivera. So it's another avenue for law enforcement to keep the public safe.
Absolutely. It's all about keeping the public safe. So, ladies and gentlemen, if there was a scenario of a white Civic that committed a crime in the city, our sheriff's department would simply go access the computer systems, enter white Civic, and all the white Civics would populate, passing by all of our cameras, our flock cameras, between that time period that was entered, and narrow down a potential suspect vehicle. That's how safe our community is going to be. And to our city manager, a total of how many cameras will be officially completed and by what date?
I believe 32 cameras, and we should be fully up and running by the end of the month. Training has started with the Sheriff's Department on getting that application up and running with a lot of their electronic devices.
Great. So we're very proud that the community is going to have that added safety measure as a tool for our Sheriff's Department. And the other item that I want to discuss so we can wrap this up is the beautification ad hoc committee that I chair. And I want to discuss one of the items that we were talking about is the center of town, what will be potentially the heart, the center point, which would be Washington and Passons, where we currently have a monument marker that gives direction to Pico Rivera and the sheriff's station. It's a planter with plants and a couple of the seals of our local organizations that belong here. And we were discussing in the beautification ad hoc of giving kudos to our active and our current veterans that live in the city, where we do some type of monument marker that's also directional to our civic center, so to speak, to our sheriff's department and our city hall, as well as our three flags: the American flag, very well lit up; the California flag, very well lit up; and the Pico Rivera flag. Adding those three elements to the existing monument marker that's there, with a little bit of recognition to our current veterans, since we are a veteran town. I wanted to see if I can get maybe a consensus from the rest of my colleagues, if we can do a study and see what the cost would be, direct staff to see what the cost would be to upgrade that monument marker. Can I get a second on that?
A second.
And with that, that concludes all of my old business. And before we close up the meeting today, we'd like to close in memory of those that passed, that were members of the Go-Getters team. And these members of our community passed during the times of the pandemic. And those names are Pete Rozzo, Larry Govea, David Gathier, Oralia Garcia, Mary Marquez, John Parra, Alex Ortiz, and Richard Torres. May they all rest in peace. And that is the end of our meeting, and time for adjournment at 8:22 p.m. Thank you.